the next episode of Vinyl Stallion. And we got two amazing guests today. We got Joey Secchiaroli and Jeffrey Jarvis. Joey is the lead singer and guitar player for Kindo, also plays bass, music producer, sound engineer. Jeffrey Jarvis is the bass player for Kindo, also plays guitar, and is also a songwriter. And we are pumped to have them on today.
Thank you for having us, man. Appreciate you both.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
And we thank you for your time. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I just put my little boy down for a nap. I'm a new dad.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nothing but an adventure.
Getting a lot of sleep, I assume.
I'm actually starting to get some again. But at first, I was a fever dream of insomnia and not much sleep happening for sure.
I'm doing well, thank you.
How about you guys?
I mean,
another beautiful day in Ohio. Can't complain.
Nice.
yeah,
Very
and
nice. You guys getting roasted out there as well? It's been about in the 90s basically the past 5 days in a row here.
Yep. Same here. I actually was just in South Carolina for a wedding, so it's cool up here compared to where I just came from.
No doubt. Wow.
I'm excited because we were talking about this before we started recording, but we are the keeper of the Great Lakes right now. We got a couple Buffalo boys. I'm in Cleveland.
Although New York
Bucks in
City right
Toledo.
now, right?
Yeah, but the roots, Clep, the roots.
That's right, the
Yeah.
roots.
The keeper of Lake Erie.
Born and raised on Lake Erie. That's right.
So let's get into it. So both you two are from Buffalo or Buffalo area, technically Tonawanda, right?
North Tonawanda, yep.
Yeah, it's from North
Okay.
Tonawanda. I'm from like the Amherst area, but both north towns of Buffalo.
Yeah. Have you been?
I have not. It's been one thing I've been bugging my fiance about, and you're probably not going to believe me, but yeah, I want to go to Buffalo. I want to go to a Bills game. I want to go to a Sabres game.
Definitely do it. It's a cultural experience, and Buffalo's definitely had a second a renaissance of sorts. Basically, as soon as Jeff and I left Buffalo for New York, Buffalo started getting cool. So I don't know what that means, but whatever. You would enjoy it.
It's not that cool. I mean, it's definitely like different though than when we were growing up. It was kind of a waste hole. Yeah, it's weird being from you meet a lot of people being from Buffalo. They're all over the place. A lot of people leave. Down in here in New York, Joey's not actually too far in Pennsylvania, but there's a huge group of Buffalonian root people here. Well, Rodney, who plays percussion for Kindo, he always says like he feels like he's from Buffalo, but he's from the Bronx because he knows so many Buffalo musicians that are here.
There's a lot of Buffalo expats all over the country, as I've found in my travels. They kind of just band together. It's really fascinating. There's always like Buffalo bars in almost every major city, like Buffalo Bills bars or Sabres bars, and I don't know. There's a distinct thing about it. I can't quite put it into words, but it's a thing.
It's a community. I mean, I honestly do feel that from Cleveland as well. And we're in this kind of renaissance phase where it's like, hey, look at the city, Chicago, that can actually like function in the cold months. Let's like try to copy them and do something similar and utilize the water of the Great Lake that we have. But it's been really cool to, I don't know, see people like want to come here. And I've met a lot of cool people from Buffalo as well. Actually, I think my Browns play the Buffalo Bills this year in Buffalo. So there's my excuse.
Good. Well, yeah, maybe that's the Bills game you go to.
Bada bing. Clap.
Yeah.
Book it.
My fiance has also never been to an NFL game, and she's been bugging me to take her to one because I don't know, me personally, I'm more like live baseball, live hockey, live basketball, football. I'm just nice and cozy watching it on TV. So maybe that'll be the move.
I mean, I think a Bills game is a very unique kind of NFL experience, just because it's also such a cultural experience. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like a carnival. It's like a circus. Yeah, it's the one to do.
You're talking me into it.
Yep, yep,
So
for
then
sure.
how long have you guys been posted up in New York then?
I've
I
been here
moved to,
11 years. Sorry, Joe.
you're good, you're
You're
good. Yeah, and I had moved to New York 12 years ago. Uh, 13 or 12 at this point. And then I recently moved to Bristol, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour 20 outside of the city. Um,
Okay.
just south of the city. It's basically on the border of New Jersey, but on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River. 30 minutes north of Philly. Um, and my wife and I moved here. We found out we were pregnant last summer, and her family's from this area. Um, and I knew if we moved here, I would still have access to the city. I've still done a lot of work in the city. And so I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds in that sense, getting the help from the family with the boy now. Um, and it's great to be close to family, as well as, having a little more space to just like spread out and live. That was a big piece of it. The pandemic, we were all locked in our tiny apartments, and Kate and I are very like free spirited people, and so we never really cohabitated so intensely before. Um, I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of couples and marriages didn't make it through, and I understand. I'm grateful that Kate and I were able to navigate each other, but it was incredibly challenging and not an optimal way for us to be together. Like we need space from each other as well to appreciate each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a hunch that that move to Bristol might have coincided with your newborn.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was like the final catalyst. I mean, we were looking before we were pregnant, just because, I was pretty convinced the New York that I moved to was never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I kind of think the new one's kind of stupid, and I don't want to like live there anymore. But I
Fair
still love it.
enough.
Yeah, whatever. I still love it. It's just, it's bittersweet. A lot of PTSD. Um, New York is a very intense place to live, especially during a pandemic, and so
Yeah.
that was, that was about it. I think I had it after that. It's like I don't know. I lost my studio, like I was saying before, lost a lot of things, and yeah, it was time. We both felt like it was time. So bittersweet.
Okay.
Love it. I
yeah.
always love going back. Love going back. But yeah, end of an era. It's crazy.
I don't know if you can tell, but speaking of space, it's about 4 feet, so I can't even stand up. This is my bed right here. So I'm underneath my bed.
Nothing.
Okay.
The loft bed, and I have my studio here. So you have to be really clever with space. I live by myself. Well, I have roommates, but essentially myself, and I enjoy it. I don't need much space, but it's gets cramped. The lady's over. You know,
That's for sure. I was thinking about how, when I was single before I met Kate, I had a pretty similar setup to what Jeff had. I had a lofted bed. I put a futon under it. I had two rooms, just like literally like two rooms that were pretty tiny. One of them was like Jeff has set up, and then my studio was like the other room, but it wasn't like a big room. But I feel like I had everything I needed. Like I didn't really need more than that as a
Mm-hmm.
single guy. And then like you meet a lady, and that just all goes out the window. So
where does all this stuff come from?
that simple life is goes away to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
unless you know unless she's totally into it, but mm, not so much.
You have a room dedicated.
I
Yeah, and
call
I'm
this
glad now I have like in this new place, like we're renting a house, and the upstairs, this is my studio. And since the boy came, I also sleep up here. Kate and I sleep in shifts, and it's nice. I feel like it's like a taste of that single life again, just like in the second floor of my own house. It's really funny. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's go all the way to the beginning. So you both grew up in the Buffalo area. When did you, I guess, first discover that you wanted to play an instrument? What was your first experience, playing in a band? All of it.
Who wants to go
I,
first?
I guess I'll go. I'll go. It's convoluted because, like, well, Joey and I met at a church when we were kids, and
Okay.
that was definitely for both of us a big catalyst in being in bands. And Joey's a couple years older than me, so like when you're in high school, that really matters. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
he was always in a couple really great bands. One of these bands, Adelaide, was one of my favorite bands, and all of my best friends too. But it's wild. And that church specifically was very music center and very arts. We was very unique happening. Very lucky for outcasts like us to. It was really fun. So we Joey and I both separately got involved in music. Before that, I started playing when I was,
Mm-hmm.
well, my first instrument was trumpet, and it was in sixth grade, but I fainted and they found like a blood vessel that could turn into an aneurysm. So they're like, no more trumpet.
Damn.
So my mom was like, you want to try playing guitar? I was like, yeah. So she hired this guy, George Paleo, who's every year they stopped nominating him because he kept winning best guitar player in Buffalo, but he's great. And then it's just it was once I started going to the church. I kind of live next door to this church, and I was just always there, always around music. All my friends were always playing music, and I guess I never really had another plan. I remember being I guess jealous, but I remember talking to Mike Rafferty, Joey. Mike was in one of these bands with Joey, and they were great. There's Coleman Curley Family Singers, and they were they're getting plates. They're young too, like 17. And I was like, man, that's all I want to do is be in a band. And I remember talking to Mike, and he's kind of like, yeah, whatever, okay. And I asked him, I was like, do you know, like, are you thankful for what you have? Like, that's really such a special thing. And he, a rare moment of sincerity, he was like, yes. He's like, yeah, I do. That's a really good point. And then we grew up, and then we became the same age, and then we became in the same band. Fast forward. So you have this day and age, right? But there are like 15 million bands that came out of this one church, and we all played in these bands with each other. This day and age being adjacent to that, and
Mm-hmm.
Kindo came from that. So it kind of just bleeds together. Kindo was like the newest iteration, and we just kept going.
So Jeff, did you play in this day and age as well?
No, I did not.
Okay, because Joey, you did not play guitar in that band. You played bass, correct?
Right.
Joey's a fantastic bass player. He's I learned how to play bass from watching him, actually. Believe it or not, his band Adelaide. When you left to go to California, uh, somehow like the singer wanted to start playing the songs again and asked if I would play. And I was like, yeah. And it was so he's a really, really good, very good bass player.
And for the
Thank
listeners,
you.
to put a timeline on this is 2005, right? When you joined this day and age, Joey?
Yeah, 2005, 2004 is probably when I started talking to Steve. I think that was about a year and a half. I wrote The Bell and the Hammer with them. We recorded that together. It wasn't too long after it released that the singer stepped down, and the project kind of pivoted and turned into Kindo. Jeff and Jeff here joined us on the bass shortly after that, and yeah, it was
At first,
it
it
all
was
just
Steve's
blurs
dad,
together.
right? At first, like you didn't really have a
We didn't
role
have a
as a
bass
bass
player
player.
before. We were just
Yeah.
writing. Yeah, we didn't really have a bass player. I knew I wanted to kind of give a go at singing and playing guitar. Um,
which was
which for
wild. It was a very strange move. It makes sense to us now, but at the time it was like Joey's a bass player, and we didn't really hear him sing.
hmm.
And then he has this golden, beautiful baby boy voice, and he's a badass guitar player. And it's like, okay, giddy up.
You know, it's
For
funny when you're doing it. It didn't feel that way for me. I was nothing but insecure about what I was doing, and probably for way too long, it just felt like I had no business playing those roles. But here I am now. It's too late to go back.
We still have no business to do
yeah.
that.
So then 2006, and I guess at that time it wasn't just Kindo, it was the Reign of Kindo. That's when you formed it, and essentially you just traded Jeffs. Jeff Martin goes out, Jeff Jarvis comes in.
And
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Martin, we lived about a mile away from each other, and we would always carpool with each other, and the Jets always ride together.
That was a phrase. Yeah.
I was in Jeff's wedding. He's an awesome guy.
Very cool. So then you guys basically switched, and then Joey's playing guitar, Jeff's playing bass, and then obviously since Jeff Martin wasn't in Kindo, that's when you started singing, right, Joey?
That's right. Yeah. We started rehearsing and writing in my mom's basement. Um, and yeah,
Which
it was
is
really
so
cold.
small.
It was so
What-
small. It was just a tiny little corner of it. And it was the winter. It was in the winter. It was freezing. I remember like there wasn't really heat down there. We just had like space heaters, but you know, a Great Lakes winter, it's not warm. Um,
The amps
but
kept
we
us
just
warm.
yeah, the amps kept us warm. We just loved it and couldn't imagine doing anything else with our time. And for a long time that has been the case. It's evolved obviously over the years. Life is strange and dynamic and unpredictable, but
Absolutely.
this project has come to mean so much to so many people, and I'm one of the strangest phenomenon that's super humbling still to this day. Um, I started playing bass in this group called Remember Jones last year, and I'm the oldest guy in the group. Kind of like the younger it's kind of like the younger two generations like beneath me
They
that
call you
I'm
Uncle
playing with.
Joe.
No, they don't call me Uncle Joe, but
Should make them.
yeah, I should force them to do that. But what blew me away is a couple of the members, a couple of these guys like at first didn't really realize that I was in Kindo, but once they found I was, like, they were huge Kindo fans, and it kind of threw them for a loop, and always throws me for a loop, but in a positive way. It's even still pretty consistently, no matter what the generation is, I'm finding people who are like, oh man, like I love your music, or your music means so much to me, and it's just so humbling and just mind blowing that this music still, you know, well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but like I've kind of had a step back from it for the past year and a half, 2 years, and really the pandemic, and kind of revisiting it now, realizing like, man, this thing is just so much bigger than any of us, and I feel this like deep steward role, like a protector of it almost, like it's not
Mhm.
it's not something that I don't know. It's not. It's special to me, and I
I
know it's
just used
special to
that word
everyone involved.
steward today, Joey. I was talking with Rocco and I used that phrase, and Stewart talking about Kindo.
Yes.
Yeah,
Synchronicity.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon. This happening, and I was talking to Jeff yesterday. Like, we couldn't even really tell you like how it happened, but it's just a very special
It's
thing
all
to be a part of.
ridiculous, actually, how it
Yeah.
happened. It's the biggest thing that happened to us was we're about to break up, just because we were going on tour and no one cared about, like, I think the bands liked us, but like they were like pop punk, like not our crowd, and we couldn't afford it. It was just done. So
what year are you talking?
well, this was just I guess
2000
2011,
and
10, 11.
was it that late?
Okay.
No, because by 11 I was in New York City already.
This is What Happens came out, what, 12?
No. Play with-
2010.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
play-
this is before that then. So we're
Yeah.
talking
It was like
2009. Okay.
2009, I think.
Yeah, I'm bad
2009.
with
Okay.
dates. So sorry, guys. You might know way more than. So anyway, it was done, and cool. And then, uh, Steve's dad sent an email to Rob from Candy Rat. Basically, the email said, "I think you'd like my son's band," and sent him some it was Breathe Again, which is like not a representation of what we normally do, and it was like a weird lyric video that we didn't make, and it's like, this is my son's
So to
this is
be-
my son's band, I think you would like it.
Though to be fair,
And-
I don't think any of our music is a representation of what we normally do.
I guess so. I mean, yes, but so then apparently Rob, he enjoyed it, and then we started talking, and then he's like, let's do some I want to fund your next record, and we went through that and did some YouTube videos, and then yeah, we'll do YouTube videos. That's a big thing right now. That's right, 2009, because the 2008 is when YouTube came out, really. And then we did the YouTube videos and did really well, and then randomly got a call from these promoters in Brazil that were like, we want to bring you down here. Like, what? And we did, and they went great. And we're like, where's at this point we didn't have any fans coming to our shows in the States, where it was confusing. It was like, what the heck? We went to Japan as well, but that was because of the label we were on, their affiliate. It's all a weird, messy accident that we had barely any intention, and we couldn't have. If it were up to us, this band would not if in our hands, this band wouldn't exist. We just loved doing it, and then we just kept finding ways to do it. That's really how I could best explain my experience of this band.
Yeah, it was just important to keep going. Even, when it felt bleak. I don't know, there's always been something about it. Even as recently as like the past few months, like I'm going through that, like, is this it for me? Like, is this where I get off the train? And it's weird. I just can't get off it. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you two start off by calling it a project, because like to me, I'm like, this is more than a project. Like, this is a sweet band. Like, the music's awesome. Like, it's a band. Like,
I mean, it's a lot
yeah.
of things. It's a band. It is a project. It's a phenomenon. That's probably a more accurate word for it.
Yeah, and we're living the experience, right? I love Paul McCartney, and I love listening to interviews with him, and he's so good at being Paul McCartney. How could you be? What do you do if you're that? And he has such a grounded perspective. Like, he says, like, now he's a fan of the Beatles. It's so long ago. All of those records, they broke up before anyone was 30 years old in that band.
yeah, crazy to think about.
And for him, it's like it's 50 million lifetimes ago, and it's on. We're as good as the Beatles. I'm comparing us, but this has been 16 years now, plus all the bands and iterations we've been in before that. That it's just kind of like, it all bleeds together, and I can't believe it. I just feel lucky to be doing that. The music, people enjoy the music, and that we can still do it.
It's being able to do the music, but I mean, like, there has to be, and you guys have just kind of summed it all up in the past couple minutes of describing it, but the longevity of it all, and to be able to look back at those memories, and to look back at, I don't know, accomplishing those ups and downs as you both have just described. So I really love seeing that. Like that's just like, it's a really cool part of just a band in itself, and continuing to keep the project going. So I commend you both for doing that. And yeah.
Sorry, good. I was thinking about the Abbey Road, the cover, the iconic cover.
Yeah.
Like that where that was is just across the street from Apple Studios where they were recording, and they're like, hey, we need to do some pictures real quick. They were recording. Let's just go outside. And they're like, okay, let's walk across the street. That's how that came about. It was haphazard. It was just, we need something, and it becomes this iconic thing. And even when I like Paul talks about stuff like that, and can you imagine if that were you? Like you just like, oh, I'm just gonna take a picture crossing the street, and then there's all this lore. Like it becomes a different thing, and that's the m- uh fascinating thing and about music. Once we make it, whoop, it's something. So it's no longer ours. You know, it's everyone else's. But I wish I wrote Beatles songs. I'd like to have that many.
You'd have a much
Wouldn't
taller
we
bunk
all?
bed. You'd have a much taller bunk bed if you wrote Beatles songs.
Taller, but I could have as tall as I want.
Maybe wider
I could
too.
have tiers.
Yeah.
Levels, Jerry. You'd have levels.
I could have a real Saturn.
Yeah. You could own part of the land on Saturn.
Yeah, there was no land on Saturn.
No.
Doesn't matter. You gotta own it anyway. No, Saturn's a gas planet.
The surface of Saturn is solid.
Is it?
No.
The ring is gas,
There
right?
is no surface. There's no surface of Saturn. It's a gas. You know, if you put it in the if there was an ocean big enough, it would.
Oh,
float.
I'm getting it confused with Mars. That's why.
There's a lot of
Very
rings around Mars.
Yeah. Well, if you want it, then you should have put a ring on it.
So I think our biggest influence in Kindo is Katy Perry.
Really?
Oh, yes.
No.
Okay.
No, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at how much I enjoyed her. But
Yeah, she a good artist.
I saw her
That's
in
great.
2012 on that California Girls tour randomly in Cleveland.
Oh, that would be. I would love to see. I saw her randomly. My friend Liz and I. Yeah, Liz. It was a few years ago. Her friend was in town, and she was going to see Katy Perry at Madison Square Garden. And we're like, what if there's tickets? And there were like $12 tickets that people were just trying to get rid of. So we went the day of. It was pretty cool.
That is.
Shout out to Katy Perry. All right, so you mentioned how you guys have played over in Japan. I can't even imagine where else you guys have played at.
That's it.
What is one place for both of you that just sticks out as whether it be the coolest place or coolest venue that you've ever played at?
Well, I mean, Japan
one in-
definitely is one of the coolest places that I've ever gotten to play. But you know, Brazil in a totally different way was also a mind-blowing experience. So, yeah, it's really hard to say. It's hard at this point in like my music playing career. It's hard to like hone in on one particular experience.
There's one venue that we should remember though, because no one ever came to this show, but it was the best venue. It was that one in Burlington. What was it called? Remember?
Higher Ground.
Yeah,
Burlington, Vermont.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And like
It's a great
was
venue.
just a great venue. They would catering. They just took care of the bands. But like, you know, we would get like 15 people coming through, but they were always happy we were there. That's a very strange thing. I remember those things a lot.
Yeah, but that's I think the culture of Japan, just being in such a different feeling place, definitely made an impression on me. I think about that a lot, and Brazil in a very different way. But Japan was the first like very foreign experience that I had as a very young person in my formative, you know, years of my career, and so that will I think always have a special place in my heart. Tokyo. Where did we play? We even played in Kyoto.
we did not play Kyoto.
We stayed in Kyoto.
Yeah, we went there.
That's right. We went there and checked out the temples in Kyoto.
Very cool.
So many. That's crazy. We've played on the moon.
No,
and
that's not
apparently
true.
we were
have
booked to
not.
play on Saturn. too,
Not true.
Yeah.
on the surface of Saturn.
On the surface of Saturn.
On the solid surface of Saturn. No.
So wait, have you guys seen us live, or you were about to? You said.
So I had tickets for the 2020 show in Akron, and obviously that got canceled due to COVID. And I couldn't go to, like, you guys had a date scheduled for 2021. I guess that show never ended up happening, but I wouldn't have been able to go to it anyways. I can't remember what would have prevented me from going, but bottom line was I wasn't going to be able to go. So I've actually not seen y'all play live yet, and that is an item on my bucket list.
Pressure's on now.
Yep.
It is. That's interesting. So Joey, you were talking about earlier about Remember Jones. I saw you post like a bunch of tour dates for them like on your Instagram. I wasn't sure. I was like, is Joey doing like a new solo project, or is he just promoting this, or what is this? So you're playing bass in that band. You come, I believe one of those dates is near Detroit, is it not?
Was it Ferndale?
Yes,
I think
Ferndale,
that date.
Michigan. That's a suburb of Detroit.
So I think that may have gotten canceled. A lot of the dates on this tour, the project that band's actually in the middle of a tour. I'm actually home for a week during a stretch of the dates off, so I can be with my
Okay.
boy and try and get some other work done. Um,
Wow, so we really caught you at the right time.
no, truly, this was kind of an ideal time. I think that gig is canceled. The one in Michigan. I don't know if it's announced. I'm not sure.
Bummer. That's the one near me.
I know it's a bummer. It's a really fun show. It's like I describe it as it's like a 2 hour like coked out Vegas road show, a nonstop. It's definitely like very challenging. It's just kind of like press the right buttons for me, and I think the best part of that project is that I'm not in charge of it, which is like so freeing.
Nice.
Guys, I got part of my in-ear stuck in my ear.
Oh, that's no good.
No, it's all the way back there.
No good. No good.
Damn.
Yeah.
Trying
But
to dig
yeah,
it
I'm
out
bummed
with
you can't
this.
catch it. It's a really fun show, but maybe next time.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt with that, but I was a little scared.
No, you're all good, buddy. We can't have an
Yeah.
in-ear be lodged in your skull and for the
I
rest
mean,
of your life.
it's gonna come out. It's gonna be fine. I just have to do it afterwards.
Wait, it's still in there?
Yeah, it's in there right now. It's stuck in there. It's like
What is the rubber or the felt part?
the rubber? Yeah,
You need needle nose
Ah.
pliers.
Yeah.
I
or
have the
even
tools to get it out,
tweezers.
but I'm kind of busy right now.
You're powering
busy?
through for the
Okay.
stallions.
Well, I'm
Well
talking.
done, sir.
I'm talking to you guys, and anyways, that was so strange. Like, of course, that would happen during this.
It's all right. We had before we started recording, we had some chipmunk voices as well going on from Joey, and
Yeah.
I wish we were able to compare them both, but
That was pretty funny just because these guys met, like the first impression of me was this. I think the sample rate is like not matching or something on my interface, and so my voice was pitched up. Jeff obviously immediately recognized that it was like
very
silly.
substantial. It was like it was definitely not. It was not just. It was not subtle. It was
Like
very-
maybe it sounded like I had helium, and these guys were just like, "You guys did a really good job of not like laughing." Like, "Oh wow, this guy sounds ridiculous." Like that's so funny.
We had no
I-
clue.
That was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what good hosts do. I immediately would be like, "What's wrong with your weird voice?" And then like, "What that is your voice?"
I imagine it's similar to and obviously whatever. Not to pick on him because he could just beat the living shit out of me, but it's like if you saw Mike Tyson fight in his prime, but you never heard him talk, and then you interviewed him, like that first moment when he starts talking, you'd be like, oh, like you'd have to really throw you off because this guy that just like
Is he messing with me?
brings behemoths to the ground with his fists. Just start talking like this.
He's badass. He has a pet tiger. He just brings with him. He brings with him. He flies with them. And he puts. I mean, he's crazy.
Honestly, like when I go down like YouTube rabbit holes, he probably accounts for like a solid 20%. Let's like
Mike
look
Tyson?
at like highlight reels of him just beating the shit out of guys
Oh,
like
yeah. I've
bigger
never
than him.
done
Just
that,
seeing him
actually.
fight, it's like this guy. Who dares get in the ring with this guy in his prime? I mean, oh my god, it's insane.
Absolute
Great
great.
story. Joey, did you tell me about that movie Nobody?
Nobody.
With
Yes, with
yeah.
yeah, that's great. Did you watch it?
I haven't, but it's just that's very up your alley. Very, and mine too.
Yeah,
like-
the same guy that directed John Wick did that, I think. So it's just a very like
Oh,
great action, brawling, like brutal brawl movie for those who appreciate that genre. I feel like I grew up with a lot of violent movies, and whatever. I think they're great. Fight
Found
me.
Moose rule.
They are great. Yeah. Right there's the stamp.
Yeah.
They sound like Beavis and Butthead in this interview. Vinyls is cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the Reign of Kindo started by Beavis and Butthead.
We're not very we're not adults by any
Speak for
means.
yourself. I'm a dad now. I'm full adult.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
I can.
You can. There's plenty of dads that are
I'm a
still
father too, who
children,
cares?
but relatively speaking to my son who poops himself regularly, I'm an adult.
Yeah,
You're
facts.
much better than your son.
At least I don't poop myself.
Is this interesting?
Yeah. Is this
I-
good material? Is this entertainment?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100V. All right. So I'm
So-
gonna. Oh, go ahead, Club.
I was just gonna say, so you two are unique in that you are the two remaining founding members of Kindo, which
We found
means
it.
you've been on every single album, every single song. So I'm just curious, what's your favorite album that you've made?
Ah.
And then also give me just like a handful of just like your favorite songs. Like doesn't have
Yeah.
to be a certain number, but just like ones where you're just like, yeah, that's a ripper.
Well, for me, it's favorite album changes with the weather for sure,
Okay.
but there's definitely a handful of songs that I find myself like really glad that we made.
Obsolete being one for sure.
Obsolete's one of my favorite. Mine are always like kind of more like oftentimes like the more delicate ones. Flowers by the
Treasure.
Flowers by the Moon, Don't Haze Me. Those are two of my favorites. Let me think here.
Well, we just have so many. What do we think?
No, there really are a lot.
No, I know. There's
Yeah. I mean,
Because
each
the music
album's
is-
got like 10 to 12 songs on it. So I mean it's a fairly big discography.
Yeah, Catch the Gleam, I like that song. But also just depends on my mood because my wife described Kindo's albums as like each album has like 12 different very distinct personalities on it. And I think that's like a good way to frame it. It's really
Yeah.
you got to find the tunes that really like hit you where you are. And of all, like when I talk to fans, so all these different fans, they like love different songs from each other. There's obviously there's some crossover. Nightingale tends to be one that a lot of people like. Moments in Between, Hero, Saint, Tyrant, Terrorist. So there's definitely some tunes that seem to congeal like the Kindo bass, but then there's people who like their favorite. When I find a fan whose favorite song is "Don't Haze Me," I know they're like my kind of person. I'm like, yeah, that's the wavelength I'm on.
That is
Yeah.
a good one. That's probably not my top 5, but I do really
you're not
enjoy
Joey's
that
type
one.
of kind of person. Then.
Yeah. And,
Well,
yeah.
I'm a drummer, so I love the
That makes
songs
sense.
where Steve is just ripping.
Yeah. And
You
I
know-
think that's part of it. Like a lot of our fans are musicians, and when there used to be shows that didn't get canceled all the time, we would play, and there would be people up front like air drumming. They would know Steve's parts, and
Yeah.
it was always just like a riot to see.
That was a weird thing to realize at first too, because to us we're just playing music. It's like people are like, would you listen to Kindo if you were in it? And it's impossible to answer, but it's definitely my favorite music to make. That's Joyce said that once, and so like when people are like, they focus on musicianship a lot at first, and like one of my favorite actually reviews was like early on. Can you swear on this podcast or no?
Yeah, we have it marked as like not safe for kids. You can say absolutely whatever you want.
I hate fucking kids too. So
Except Joey's.
yeah, I haven't met him yet. So people are air drumming, and it's they're experiencing Kindo, and like or like dissecting bass parts and stuff. They're experiencing Kindo in a much different way than it's weird. It's wild because like they're like, yeah, there was this time, a period where I started noticing in the early, like they're focused on like we're good musicians, like that. It was seriously the furthest thing from and of course now I embrace, I get why, and I want to be better at my instrument, but it was just a pure love for making music. But the best review we've ever gotten, and Joe, you hope you have this somewhere.
It was Alternative Press magazine.
Oh, it's even better.
Yeah.
So it basically it called our band musical masturbation. And it was like
not too far off.
Well, here's the thing, like, who the hell is this person that thinks they're so important that they have to, like, who cares? It's not your type of music. It's like really a vindictive thing to say, which is why I like it. So it's weirdly like, this person hates us for some reason.
I think that's a compliment. You don't?
I think it was funny. I just liked it.
I think it was semi-accurate, and I think that it, you know, at the time, like a young, like, bruised ego on the road reads that and is like, whoa, because the rest of it was kind of disparaging. That's probably why. The rest of the review, he did not really. It was a review of Rhythm, Chord, and Melody. He didn't like it.
What?
But the thing is,
man.
you know, I'm reading it, and I remember feeling this way when I read the review. Like, well, that's kind of mean, but I kind of see what he's saying. Like, I remember feeling that way.
It's as if like we're doing some groundbreaking thing that no one's ever done. Like, no one listens to Genesis, the craziest weird stuff. It's unlistenable, some of it. It's like, why are you picking us out? I think it's because, like, we are at first, because of the label 111, we were around like pop punk sort of scene, and as if we didn't already feel alienated our whole lives. Now we were like clearly like in the wrong place, and it was frustrating only to one angle because we just wanted to do this. But it was funny. It was definitely like, here we are. No one likes that we're here.
I think that the thing with Kindo is it's got that, like, it's got that the spirit, it's got the energy of that, like, pop punk attitude, where it's just like, well, this is just what I want to do, and so here it is. Who cares what you think? Kind of approach to it, but it manifests very differently, and it was definitely out of place. Alternative Press magazine was not the right publication to get that record reviewed in, but also, like, I think as blossoming musicians and writers and arrangers, you know, I also wasn't completely closed off. I didn't feel like I knew exactly what I was doing anyways. So, like, reading that review, it's like, yeah, it's pretty mean, but also, you know, going back, it's like, yeah, I could see where some of this critique comes from, and in terms of, like, the musical masturbation part, we did just gratuitously, like, do what we wanted to, and just threw shit against the wall, and, you know, I'm not sorry. It's fine. You know, like, plenty of people like it. It's not that, maybe it's not for everyone, and that's okay. You know, that was also our attitude when making the music we made. You know, we weren't trying to conform to anything in particular other than what was really exciting for us to make and to play. And so I think we captured that, and that one's music is polarizing at all is not a bad thing. Oh, well, the best part of the story is that, you know, after the scathing review, our label guy then took out an ad in Alternative Press magazine and took snippets of the review and like, out of context, to make it sound like he was praising the album, and put them in the ad.
That's so great.
So
That's
it was just
incredible.
it was such a good move. I was respect to Brad Fischetti. But our label guy, who happens to be Brad Fischetti of LFO, Light Funky Ones, the boy band in the late 90s.
Nice.
Solid
my
dude.
girls wear Abercrombie and Fish.
Chinese food makes me sick.
Yeah. Oh, what's that song? Steal My Sunshine?
I don't know if I know that one.
No. I'm telling you, never mind. I think
Girl
of a
on
totally
TV.
different band.
There's the
No,
girl
you're
on
singing
TV.
Summer Girls. I'm thinking of Steal My Sunshine by Len. Different band. Oops. But very similar songs.
All good.
That's hilarious. All right, so Joey, we mentioned at the beginning that you get into, like, audio engineering and everything as well, and Jeff, you mentioned your studio. So do you guys produce everything kind of in your own spaces? You mix it? What does that whole process look like, and how much are you guys doing that to an extent?
Not really much of a process, as
It's
it's like,
it,
yeah.
it's evolved over the years. We started out, we you know I mixed and produced all the records, but we would rent other studios at first. I didn't always like, uh, and we would do overdubs at my studio usually. So for like the EP with Record a Melody, and This Is What Happens, we would rent out, I think it was Audio Magic in Buffalo, New York. We would record drums and scratch tracks, and then we would, a lot of the piano was recorded at the church that Jeff and I grew up going to. I would bring a remote rig there and we'd record Kelly on a real grand piano there. I was just such a stickler
Was
for
that
recording
a Rhythm
everything.
Core Melody? Was that what we did for Rhythm Core Melody? Was that Evangel?
Yeah.
So
And then we
that
went to the
church is-
Tab. We went to the Tab, which was a different church that had another full concert grand. And I think that was where we recorded a lot of the piano for This Is What Happens, as well as chunks of Play with Fire. And then obviously as project studios became more ubiquitous, in these latter phases, I had a studio in the Lower East Side before the pandemic hit. We recorded a lot of stuff there that isn't released yet. But um, we would often do overdubs at our own project studios, and that's just kind of, as the times have changed, our workflow has changed, as our personnel has changed.
Technology too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We've changed our process, and admittedly, as a producer, I think I bore very easily, so I'm always, and as a writer, I'm always trying to like change that process or throw a wrench in it to see what happens. Because I don't know,
Joey's so talented that you would be surprised at how the records sound the way that they do, and how Joey got them to sound that way, and where happen.
They are so clean. Like there's
not-
no ambient noise or anything. It's just like notes.
Yeah, it's yeah, Joey's a bona fide genius. I know, because I created him.
I am Jeffrey's product.
Um,
Kind words from Jeffrey. No, it's been weird. It's been a weird like hodgepodge. Like so many different studios and so many different spaces are captured on those records. And
well, I was here too, right, in my apartment for this.
yeah, I mixed and produced a good chunk of Play with Fire in the same apartment that Jeff's in. I used to live in the apartment Jeff's in.
Yeah. Okay.
When I first moved to Brooklyn. And yeah, then Jeff took it over, and now Jeff's got his studio there, and over the pandemic, we produced a lot of our recordings and like live in studio stuff, from our homes, separate, the way music was meant to be made, completely separate from other people.
I actually just started learning, believe it or not, the past year and a half. I mean, I'm getting like fairly decent at it now, and I'm seeing like, man, I wish this is fun. I wish I could be good at this. But especially like with this other project, the Dead Sages, our writing partner Charles lives in San Francisco, so we do everything remotely. And Joey has produced in these tracks with us, and from his tiny place in Astoria, but I was in Brooklyn, but I'm not going to go that far, so far away. But we would do sessions like, it's just it's just weird that like if you hear like the Dead Sages stuff, it's really good sounding, and Joey did a great job, but all the basic tracks and stuff, like they're right in this space with this microphone, and it still blows my mind because it sounds so good. And it's like I almost sold this microphone because I bought it for like $75.
Damn.
It's amazing what you can do now with project studios, and that's an advantage. I would say, like, if there is a drawback to being able to do that, it is because it's always an option, and it's always generally an economic option. The incentive to get together in the same room at a studio decreases as project studios become just a much more sensible way to get a similar job done. But experientially speaking, it's completely different. It's a different chemistry. You know, when you're in a room together, you can kind of be there when things are unfolding together, and it just happens differently. It feels differently, as you know, as a creative process. And so, you know, there's pros and cons, just like anything else. We can produce more easily and for less money this way, but we're also missing out on some of that camaraderie and magic X factor chemistry that you would get when you're in a studio together, just kind of cooking the stew together. You know what I mean?
So how do you balance that now, I guess? Because, you know, you said you're in Bristol, Pennsylvania. Obviously, Jeffrey, you're in Brooklyn. And I guess, you know, I'm not sure where everyone else is posted up, but I'm assuming not all in the, you know, exact location. Like, how do you thread the needle of like getting that in-person time and then still also utilizing the remote production aspects?
Well, the
The la-
pandemic pretty much shut everything down for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still in the ashes from that. So there's kind of no answer to that. We've just
Yeah,
been in survival mode. So, Joe?
by the end we were doing those like kind of like live in studio kind of pandemic videos,
Those
all
videos
separate.
are awesome, by the way.
Oh,
I'm glad
I'm glad.
That's that's really cool to hear because
The
They were-
videos are
they
what
were not-
first got me into you guys.
they were
The
not fun
ones
to make.
way
you say?
back from the videos, like the pandemic videos are awesome too, but the ones that are on like Candy Rat Records,
cool.
YouTube, that's like
Oh, yeah.
what
Those are
first
fun. Yeah,
got me into
That's
you
different.
guys.
Mhm.
yeah, those were a different experience altogether. But like, yeah, by the end, before kind of things came to a halt for us, um, that that was the main way the only way we could do anything. And you know, much to
Mm-hmm.
my chagrin, and I know Jeff's as well. It was just like never had we envisioned that's what this project would become. Like just like, oh yeah, and obviously that has less to do with the project and more to do with the circumstances surrounding the world that we were living in at the time. But
Absolutely.
you know, it was a for me it was a buzzkill. Definitely, I think for Jeff it was a buzzkill that was the only way we were allowed to do it, or that people felt comfortable doing
Yeah.
it. I think that was kind of part of the sort of existential meltdown that came after that for myself, was just kind of like, oh, are all the things that were most important to me just gone forever now? Is that just it? Like, you know, what do I do now? Like, why
Yeah,
am
like
I here?
right.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
before that, we were like happy, however, after, and then the all the songs, Patreon songs after that, like we purposefully went away. We booked Airbnbs, like these big houses, and
mm-hmm.
for like a weekend, and we would all go, and the goal was to have 3 songs, so like
Or at least
three or
ideas
3 or 4
sketched out.
ideas, and then we would while we were there, we would build the skeleton for it,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, because we're not fleshing out the complete everything, but then the process after that would be like, well, like, you know, go record drums, or uh I'll come in and do bass, and we were seeing each other, and those retreats were awesome, and now we have 18 songs that still have to see the light of day.
So we're talking like
Old
2020,
20 songs. 20 songs.
20 songs. Would you say 2020?
like is this time period like 2020, early 2021
We're
that you're
talking
talking?
2007, right after Happy However After. So
So like
when we
2019.
earlier than that for some of them, 2017. It's
Damn.
tough.
Okay.
I'm bad with like dates, because Happy Hour After was released in 2018, right?
Yep.
And that actually, when we did Patreon, the 10 songs that are on Happy However After, those are just the first songs we created for that record.
So you still have songs from those sessions that
We have
are
We have
not
20
even out
we have
there.
20 we have 20 currently 20 unreleased songs.
2 records
Damn.
worth. 2 records worth.
And it's with that set of musicians. It's not even with the current band.
No, actually it's
Oh.
with within these 20 songs, everyone with the exception of I think Mike Carroll is represented on those recordings.
Oh,
Everyone
yeah,
that's
right.
ever been in Kindo.
Wow. Very
So
cool.
there's like overlap between
It's a cool. It's a
the
cool. Yeah,
current crew and the old
totally,
crew.
totally. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
sweet.
it's a cool thing to have.
That's cool.
But also like a lot of those, it's been years, and we have a group of guys that are the guys now, and it's tough for them to get pumped on tunes that they didn't have any hand in
Very
writing
true.
and they didn't play on it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and right, I totally understand that too. Um, so there's just so much involved in that, and just 2 records worth of material to that also to Joey and I'm probably excited about all of them, but like this is like eras ago in our life. It's like those are already records that have been on the shelf for a while, right? And then we want to write new music, but we can't. We want to finish these. We got to finish.
Yeah.
They're like anywhere from like 70 to 80% tracked, or they're close to being the. Just Joey's got to mix in stuff, add some strings and some stuff like that. And we're still in the process of figuring out what to do with that. It's a good position to be in, but it's just
Absolutely.
it's a weird one, like to everyone's represent, but the only people that are on all the songs are Joey and I, right? So it's like naturally there are guys who have been on. They're excited about those songs,
Mhm.
and I don't think Kendall's has been on any of them. So
Oh,
he
he's
wants to write
on. He's on
Better Off Together, right?
5 of them, I think.
Is he really? What?
Yeah, yeah.
He is really good. I've seen
Yeah.
him on the YouTube videos, but obviously,
Oh, you're right. You are right.
Steve was on Happy However After. So I am very excited to hear him, like on a full album.
You've heard him before. Who cares?
No, it's
So,
cool. There's some
well,
really cool stuff in there.
let's get into that too, I guess. So like the band now, like you two are the only two from the original incarnation. Like what is it like, I guess, just playing with a totally new set of musicians?
Well, it's
Like what
been a
are the
while
challenges?
since
what are the benefits?
the
If
challenge.
there are.
The challenge is just like being able to get together at all since like the pandemic. But back when before it was illegal to play together, it was really great. I mean, I feel like the shows were feeling good. The chemistry was gelling more and more. I was super pumped about the tours we were gonna do. I just knew it was just gonna be better and better. And then, honestly, since things grinded to a halt in 2020, we haven't been in the same room. We just haven't. It's been
Not
2
once?
years,
not
all
like
together.
all of us,
Like we've been
Wow,
together in
okay.
different capacities, but not as a group to
We're a
do
bit
like music.
disjointed as well, right? Like Kendall's in Pennsylvania, so like even when we were together, it was took a little bit of effort to make it happen. So
Yeah, understandable.
And we always tried to run this like a band, and gather. Gathering has always been an important piece of this to me, and I'm sure to Jeff. And man, just things got so squirrely, especially in the New York area. Like I don't know what the culture was like where you guys were, but where we were, like the idea, like I felt like if I even wanted to express that I wanted to be together with people, I would be viewed as a murderer. You know what I mean? Like that, it was like the culture was pretty extreme with over the pandemic, like, and whatever. Maybe I am selfish, but I just didn't care. I was just like,
Oh, you're
I.
not.
It's-
Ohio was like you didn't even know anything was different. Like
Yeah.
we had to like maybe wear masks for like 3 months, and then it was like we're done with this.
yeah. New York
We were-
became and still is to a degree fearfully obsessed. And I'm not saying it's without any reason whatsoever. I don't think
that was a lot of reason.
I don't think good enough reasons
Mhm.
to carry on the way it carried on.
It's very
And
extreme. It's very extreme what they're doing. I mean, it's a city too, right? It's very dense.
but it's also
but,
the Empire City. It's like
And everyone was getting it anyways.
yeah.
no kidding, man. It
Um,
was spreading like wildfire. So many people I knew got it, and plenty of people got really sick. Um, of course, and I think like whatever still processing that time. And honestly, you know, this collection of unreleased songs is I've been marinating in it a lot lately, and going through the lyrical themes and realizing like some of it is like some of the tunes that I wrote lyrics to before the pandemic like were oddly prophetic. Um, it's almost like I didn't know I saw like a lot of stuff coming, and then you read the lyrics that you wrote before it all happened. You're like, oh wow, like
I
that's
created you to be a
crazy.
prophet.
Interesting.
That's
Hmm.
weird. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's but it's also just kind of like the pandemic in New York City was an amplified version of I think a pathology that has uh infected those kinds of metropolitan areas in general. There's a lot of group think. There's a lot of
Everything's harder
Kool-Aid.
here in general too, right? It's harder to pre-pandemic. It was harder to get together. It's harder to like just because it's a city and you got to like
Mm-hmm.
rent a place and but yeah, it um I don't know what to do with we want to finish these songs, but like by time like if it's already old news, some of them, but I love them, and it's
But
like
not to
what?
the fans. To the fans, they'll be stoked.
Yes, of course, they're
Yeah.
going to be
Oh,
really stoked.
I hear you saying 20 songs. I'm like, okay, these two albums
You can
behind
hear them
me,
if you want. We can show them to you.
I would love nothing more than that.
I will send them to you. There's
Those
a so I put them together all on a SoundCloud playlist for our patrons. So don't share this with anyone unless they give us money first.
I was gonna ask you about that. So I know y'all do Patreon, and like Patreon like funds one song each month. So like are these songs from that?
Yes.
Yeah, these are all
Okay.
produced during the Patreon era, and kind of like how we framed it was like these are fancy demos, and like Jeff said, they're all
Mm-hmm.
at about like between 80 and 90% across the finish line. They just need a little bit of attention, some a little bit more than others, um, but yeah, like bringing them to fruition for like an official public release as an audio file, like you know those mixes, the mixes of all of them are kind of thrown together because I had to make a deadline, you know, and so I had to make a lot of compromises that are hard to listen to for me. Um,
Fair
Good
but
enough.
exercise though. We actually had a pretty good batting average. Like
mhm.
it forced us to be prolific. It doesn't mean it's good, but it was yeah, like Happy However After were the first 10 songs we wrote. Um a song a month through Patreon. And we're like, all right, let's put them on a record. And that's the way that happened.
So on that album, are they sequenced in the order you made them?
No,
No, I don't think
Okay.
not Unhappy However After.
That
No.
would be crazy if Human Convention was the first one you did, because to me, like that's a top 5 Kindo song for me. That
what
Yeah,
one
was
that's
the
just
a
first one?
bumps.
that's a special moment. Yeah, definitely in Kindo writing.
That's actually a good question. What was the first one of the Patreon? Do you remember, Joey? No, it wasn't. Was it Human Convention? I think we were giving that away for free to sign as you signed up, right?
Well, let
Maybe.
plug it. So where could people become a Patreon supporter, and what does it get you?
Sure. So, as at this point, like you can go, you can visit our website to get links to like all of our stuff. If you go to patreon.com/the Reign of Kindo, that'll take you to our Patreon page. And essentially, it's a member-supported like record label where you're supporting Kindo's production of new music as well as other things. That money goes to help subsidize what will be used to subsidize things like live performances and things like that, music videos, as well as like marketing and pushing our music out across many platforms. So that's essentially how that works in terms of like perks. Um, you know, you'll kind of hear stuff first there. You'll be kind of in the know of what we're up to. It's the first place we'll notify people of like what's going
Yeah.
on.
We've kind of had
Um,
different structures of it too. It's kind of like essentially we can make it what we want, but to make sense, so you can tell this to your grandma and she'll understand and be able to donate money. It's you're basically just saying, here's some money. I like what you do, and I want you to exist, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
support you. And this Patreon is the place to do that, and it's content based. So it you get charged when content is released. I think you can also just do monthly as well.
Yeah, it's a monthly thing.
But like, you know, however much it's less about like what you get and the perks and stuff, because there's some cool stuff. But honestly, like, you know, we have all these tracks. Many of our patrons, I would say most, maybe like 80% of our patrons, they haven't even heard these songs yet. They don't listen to them.
They have
They're like,
access to it, but
yeah.
a lot of them have explicitly been like, I'm waiting for like the full album experience to drop. That's what I want to experience. I'm
That's
just
sort of
here
how I am too.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
totally get
Yeah.
that.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is. It's like our fans are not really like lukewarm. I found when I meet Kindo fans, like they're all in. And so this is a place, if you are one of those all in fans, and even if all you have is $1 a month, it's a place where you can help us continue. Well, right now, put the pieces back together so we can get back to the business of doing what we do best. But also be a part of that community that makes it possible, especially as the music industry has changed so much. You know, physical CD sales and digital music sales, that's not really a thing anymore. Music has become more of like a marketing tool, which, you know, for me, that's like one of the main art forms. And so once the profitability went away for like creating high quality audio productions, as it's devalued over the years, we've come to rely on things like Patreon to continue doing this, just because there's not anywhere close to the return on investment. You know, even if your song, you know, our most streamed songs, really at most over the course of like, I don't know, 10 years, some of our most streamed songs maybe produce like maybe a couple $1,000s at most. Like you
right. So
split.
check it out. If you get a
Yeah.
million plays on, if you get a million plays on Spotify, that's really good. Million. You get about $3,000 in total.
Damn.
You got to split that across all the time it took to get those million plays and
Yeah,
across
and
all the people who wrote that song.
if
Yeah.
it hit a million plays, guaranteed, it's a really,
Yeah.
it's got to be pretty quality. It doesn't pay for shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
$3,000.
Maybe after like 10 years and a million streams, like you maybe paid for the recording expenses to like produce it, but you haven't actually made any money on it.
And fuck the Spotify people who are like, well, we're doing a good thing. It's like bringing the radio back, and people are stopping like torrenting and stuff. Like, no, you are profiting off of other people's. You are in your like you have like your offices, and I'm a user of Spotify, so I mean, but
It's a tough
they're
situation.
making money off of other people's work.
Well, I don't even know if technically they're making money. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, they
Well,
actually
some people are.
they
What do you mean?
post a loss every quarter on
Yeah.
their earnings reports.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
You know what I mean? I mean, maybe they're moving the money around properly. You know, it's a Ponzi scheme, Jerry. Yeah.
Made off.
Anyways, that's just the state of things. Whatever. Like, we've been whining about this for a long time. Many musicians from our era have, and it is a problem. But Patreon is a great solution where, you know, anyone, no matter, you know, if you got $10 to give us every month, yo, thank you so much. Awesome. If you got $1, thank you so much. Honestly, that all means the world. Like, whether you can give a lot or a little, it all means a lot to us, and we do it for those people who have told us, you know, with their attention and their resources, like, you guys need to keep doing what you're doing. And you know, I'm sure we'll have plenty of announcements in the months to come about like what's going on, but things very much in their infancy right now. Jeff and I are in the process of kind of like negotiating the reboot of the project after about a year and a half of not releasing anything. So that's you know, you catch us at an interesting time.
Also, so there's one thing you said that I found very interesting, and that was that physical media is like sort of gone by the wayside, which I do for the most part agree with one exception: vinyl.
Sure.
It seems like vinyl is sort of making a renaissance. Like record player sales are way up, record sales are up. So I guess
one problem with that is that it's expensive to make.
That's
Very
what I was going to
expensive to
ask
make.
is like selling vinyls like a profit? Like, do you guys make decent money off that, or is that more just a marketing thing? Or
so there's a lot of
we did.
I'll speak to like the vinyl like manufacturing process. This is where it gets complicated. it's particularly for someone like me because, like I was
Mm-hmm.
expressing before, I'm an audiophile, and quality is really important to me. I really get irritated when something's not done well. And vinyl is one of those mediums that you can cut a lot of corners and produce vinyl economically, but your records will have more errors, or the quality of the master will not sound as good. It might sound
Mm-hmm.
grainy or degraded. And one of the promises of vinyl is you can actually get better than digital quality that's technically has an infinite resolution, right? The digital
Yep.
medium is binary. You have ones and zeros that are there's notches of dynamics, whereas in vinyl it's all fluid and seamless. So
Is
you
that what
really
makes it really expensive though? Is that like is
what
that the difference?
what makes it expensive is the manufacturing process versus
Mm.
CDs. Like, to manufacture CDs is actually relatively inexpensive and fully automatable. To manufacture vinyl, you actually mastering comes from the person who was cutting the master lacquer that was going to be used to create the presses and all the vinyl would be injected into. And depending on the skillfulness of that mastering engineer would really determine the quality of the product, how it sounds. And that is an art form that is is coming back for sure. But there are a lot of very inexpensive alternatives that can yield inexpensive results, but also less than desirable results. I remember
Yeah.
I bought an Amy Winehouse like reissue of Back to Black, and it's kind of like grainy, and
Yeah.
some people are like, oh, it's a vibe, man, it's like vintage vinyl, but that's not who I am. Like, I want like if you're spending money on like a physical like Reign of Kindo vinyl, I want that to sound awesome. I want it to be one of the best sounding records in your record player. Um,
And it is,
Can
thankfully.
and it
confirm.
is, yeah. So we did not spare any expenses. Like, we had Scott Hall cut both masters. He's cut Snarky Puppy's vinyls, and he's been cutting
Great
records.
band. Amazing band.
Yeah, they're
They
awesome.
they toured with Steely Dan this summer.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Scott Hall's been doing cutting vinyls since before it became unpopular, and now it's popular again. So he's like an OG mastering engineer. The plant that you have it manufactured at matters. How much you put into the artwork. Like, when it comes to a physical medium, like, we spent all this extra money on Happy However After and Reign of Kindo. Happy Hour After, you have a whole art book included in that vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff, I love that experiential stuff. It's like the whole point of owning physical media is to kind of be able to get immersed in these like physical objects. So that's a long-winded way of saying, for us to do it the way that like feels like it's maintaining the artistic integrity of the project, it's
And
not
how many? Yeah,
necessarily cheap or like hyper profitable. So, like, at most, at the end of the day, maybe a 50% profit margin.
it can be a
Not
Which,
little
like,
bad
more. It
though.
depends.
CDs, you can do like
That's like 80% profit
yeah, you
margin.
can do like 80%
Ah.
plus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense, to puts it into
Yeah.
perspective. So vinyls are definitely like
And
a move
vinyls
of
break.
passion.
It's
Yeah. Like, you're
100%.
shipping them, they get dented, or they overheat, or they get warped, or don't play properly
and you have
because
to
of
order like
shipping. You got to replace
1,000
it.
at a time when you do an order, right? To get
Right.
a good price.
Yeah.
So it's like the startup cost is 10,000 50 it was $15,000, I believe, for Happy However After.
We did a
So
pre-order campaign with Rhythm Chord and Melody that just kind of kept going south because of COVID. There were continuous delays at the plants, and
mhm.
just problems with like getting the artwork arranged properly. It's just a much more complicated manufacturing process. So, could we do it for cheaper and make it a more lucrative endeavor? Well, sure. We could print it on like
Not by much though, so it wouldn't be worth it. Yeah.
we could probably get that profit margin up to 60 or 70%. But we're charging a premium for the vinyl because we really put a premium manufacturing process into it so that you have a
And our
great
friends
product.
appreciate it. I mean, they did sell really, really well. The people that like vinyls, they all bought them. So
Yeah.
I think that we basically how we think about it is like we broke even for sure.
And I can't tell people are buying CDs for like the novelty of it. They just want to, it's another physical thing, and it's generally
Mm-hmm.
inexpensive to buy a CD at a show, which is fine. But it's also like funny, a lot of times people will give me CDs, and it's like, I don't
I don't
You
know
know,
how
and I'm a
where to
dinosaur, and I still don't. Now I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I stream everything too now.
When
So
we were on the road, Joey, I think I told you this, but when Kelly was in the
I'll
band,
be right back. I'm gonna get some water. Tell him the
yeah,
story.
Right on.
he liked to drive a lot, but yeah, like him and I were just like I just we're all goofing around. But what we like to do is because we tour a lot and other bands and they like to give us their CD. You want to do a CD swap? And I hated doing that. I'm like, I don't want your CD. I don't want to give away our
Yeah.
CD. But it's like so. Anyways, by the end of tour, you have like dozens and dozens and dozens of CDs, and me and Kelly were talking. He's like, well, what if we just like listen to a track or two, and if it sucks, we'll just throw it out the window while we're driving. Like, okay. So that's what we did. We were like, we listened to every one, and nothing. There was none of them that were like, this is cool. It was like, oh god, and then we would throw it out the highway. We were kids.
That is
Yeah,
goofy.
yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time I listened to a CD. Like, at least for me, it's vinyl or streaming. Like, I haven't listened to a CD in forever. But I guess so. What I was getting at, I guess, with like that whole conversation, and like it obviously sounds like you know your fans very well. Like they're either all in or they're like, not in. There's not really many casuals or lukewarms, but like your Patreon subscribers, like they will love, like, your next release or whatever is like an album. You have 20 songs. Think about it. Like those two are 10 songs, 10 to 12, and they're double disc albums.
Yeah, they have to be
You
though because of the how long they are. They have to be
Well,
double.
no, that's a good thing. Like, at least for me, when I'm record shopping, like 2 discs, that's like, give it to me. You could put out a 4 disc album.
Mm,
How insane would that be?
I don't like those. But
Too long or too
well,
big or
I just I'm impatient, and I don't see the point. It would be cool to do a massive compilation, but like we're basically in an era like almost like in the singles, like we're talking about Beatles, but early Beatles, you'd record a single and then there'd be a B-side. Um,
yeah,
you
the
release
7 inches.
so if you release like a four disc record or one song, you get the same amount of hype, and then it's over. And then so like you wasted your this blip where people are going to pay attention um on 40 songs. It's just not, it doesn't make sense. I do like the idea of like these works of art and putting it together, and that definitely excites me. But yeah,
It,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean,
I missed the question.
So I was talking about, like, you have 20 unreleased songs. Those 2 albums behind me are about 10 songs and they're 2 discs. So I was saying you could potentially make a 4 disc album.
Yeah,
Jeffrey was saying too long.
So it's funny you say that because part of this proposal I'm writing up to the guys is I've kind of like developed this entire concept for a 20-song album using these songs that takes you through a full arc. And I'm pretty excited to present it to the guys. And
I hate the idea already.
and I think, like, to what Jeff was saying, like, I think we, as the times changed and we realizing like, oh yeah, yeah, you get all this hype for, doesn't matter how big the body of work is, you get the same amount of hype. But then I find myself very much just feeling like highly rebellious against like changing my art based on
They're also
like
not
trend.
mutually exclusive, I don't think either, right? Like you can
Yeah.
still make the compilation, you're just releasing it a bit at a time. I'm for stuff like that. I'm for concept. I mean, that's what gets me excited. I like stories. I like that whole thing. But there is at a certain point, it's like, okay, that's cool. Then like, how can we make? Does that make sense?
I think it needs to just make
Mhm.
artistic sense at the end of the day. Like, on paper, perhaps not as compelling from a numbers You're like, well, we could milk each of these songs a lot more if we just release every 20 singles.
No,
You know,
that's
like,
not what I'm not saying. I'm not
no,
saying
I'm not
that.
saying you're
Yeah.
saying that, but like logic would dictate that. Like nowadays, you know, you hear in industry jargon, people are just like, yeah, that's the way you should release music, just singles, man, just keep doing singles. And I know I can speak for myself. Like I found part of my collapse by the end of like, well, in the middle of the pandemic was, I think I had finally like chased my final carrot, my final like industry trend carrot of just like, well, this is what the thing that makes sense to do now is, and realizing like, yeah, but I'd just rather not do that. You know, it's like that's not
Yeah.
why I do this, and I don't want to play these games. These aren't the games I'm playing anymore. I don't want to play these, and they're boring. It's so boring to me. Just chasing a new like trend of like how to release music. And don't get me wrong, like there are creative ways to follow trends, and that's fine. I'm not even demonizing overall. I just found for me, I was thinking with that first. You know, I found myself starting to think in this uninspired way of like, well, okay,
I
well,
see.
what's like the most like business efficient way to do this? And then I was literally just like uninspiring myself by like
Right.
thinking that way. If that
You know
makes
what it
sense.
makes me think of, like, because do have that mind where I get excited if it does make like business sense, I guess, right? But it's not my motivating factor. Really, a big thing with like doing a compilation record is like, or a record, just a record, is it's time consuming. Like, if we're gonna make a
Yeah.
record, like, all right, we're gonna make this record now. This is what we're doing. We're all on board. We're doing it because otherwise, if it's just like, well, let's finish these songs, and once they're all finished, then you put them on a record, and here we are 2.5 years later, right? And
Mhm.
uh, you know, I love the idea of a record. Like, you know, Melancholy and Infinite Sadness is a great double record. Didn't take them that
4
terribly long to
discs.
make. Yeah, but didn't take them terribly long to make. They had a lot of money, right? They had a lot. That's the big part.
True.
They were like, let's go make this thing. And they all went and made it. I love that. And we're in a position where we don't have that luxury. So like but that's what I really want. That's what, yeah. But if we, at some point, it's a lofty goal that's not going to happen, because I like things that happen, right? That actually like um chip away at making something happen. And how things happen are in just intention, really. We want to make a record, great, let's go make a record. Well, how we're going to go make it? Let's draw up the board, the concept for it. Like, let's live this record. Like, that's how it'd be for it. You want to make a record? Cool. Joey, I'm going to call you 2 or 3 times a day, or a week. Fucking, because I'm excited. I got this idea for the record. And then everyone's inspiration feeds off of each other because you're making a record. Cool. And it changes. And then you add to this. And then that is really the most exciting thing to be a part of. But it takes a lot to make it work. It takes a lot of sacrifice, time, and money, which, you know, we are not afforded that. Do you guys have money? Can you give me some money?
Give me some of that internet money.
Yeah.
But that's really what it comes down to, right? Like, if we had, you know, fucking $1 million, let's go make a record. Joe, Miles is going to be fine for a month without you. Just give him some money. He can sleep on the money. And
Money.
make sure Kate will make sure he doesn't suffocate on it. But you see what I mean? Like, all these real world problems and things we have to deal with, we can say, oh, we're fucking that offer right now because we got some money. I got $5,000 to make a record. And
Yeah.
so how do you do that without having that luxury? And it's a sacrifice. That's it. That's
Gotta
the
find
only way
another
it
way.
happens.
You have to find another way. You know, it's been rare that we've been in a position where things have been ideal. But I think that's also where good art comes from. And yeah, well, we have these limitations to work within, and you either work within them or you just don't do anything.
Yeah.
This is very interesting because I feel like you two have like two very sort of different perspectives on
Mine's
it. But
better.
like, well, you kind of need both, like, because if you only have one
But
side
for sure
of
need mine. For sure.
that.
Yeah,
But
that's not uncommon.
here's what I'll say: whether it's 1 disc, 2 discs, 3 discs, or 4, I'll be buying it.
And I think the rest of your fans will be saying the same.
Yeah,
Because
I appreciate that.
no, it's I touched on it at the way beginning of this, but you just said sacrifice, Jeff, and your sacrifice has shown in your longevity. And I mean, again, as just a music listener and someone out there trying to consume new music, and again, so we have this playlist called the Stampede Shuffle. That's Kleps and I has about, I don't even know how many songs we're up to at this point, but it's like over 4,000 like hours of music. But he's thrown all your songs on there, so it'll always
Yeah,
show up
the
with me.
entire Kindo discography is on there, except for the 2 8-bit albums and the Christmas EP. Those are the only 2 that aren't. But
Yeah.
the first EP and then the 4 studio albums are all on it.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
it's a wide
And
collection.
those
of
are
music.
some of the early songs too.
I'm
so
going to
this thing
forget.
is
I don't want
like,
to forget. What can you type your email so I can send you this SoundCloud list before afterwards we don't talk forever and then I don't ever send it to you?
We will
yeah,
absolutely
it's
follow up.
Can I
we
send it
will.
in this? Can I send it in this chat or people like see it?
I'm not sure. We'll email you after it and definitely
Okay.
get that going.
Yeah,
But
I don't think we have a chat going, honestly.
I
But
mean,
it's
having
not
people
live, it's
contact
just
my people.
recording.
Yeah.
we'll figure it out. But all right, so we have to do this every episode, and it's the grand finale question that we ask every single one of our guests.
Wait,
Okay.
hold on. I have one more question before the grand
Oh,
finale
Club has all the
question.
questions.
Well, no, because this one, how have we not gotten to this yet? So the band started off as Reign of Kindo. Now it is just Kindo. Why was the Reign of dropped off of the name?
It's still there. It's just like my name's Jeffrey Robert Jarvis Jr. People call me Jarvis or Jeff. We thought it would just be easier because one word, and it was
Mhm.
we released Happy However After like that, and I think pretty right away we're like, yeah, we're not gonna just stick to Kindo. It's the Reign of Kindo. It's everything.
Okay.
Part of it was a technical limitation as well because the way
Yeah.
the marketplace works digitally, technically you are now releasing music under a whole new name, which is generally like devastating in terms of like reaching your audience. Like
Yeah.
you could change your social media profile stuff, but when you go to search for the Reign of
Spotify,
Kindo on
yeah.
Spotify, and then you start publishing music under a different name, even if it's just Kindo, it's showing up as a totally different artist. There was no way to reconcile those two. So technically, it is still the Reign of Kindo.
Okay.
But like Jeff said, like we've always just referred to it as Kindo internally for shorthand, and so it's kind of just more like, yeah, look. If you're like trying to tell people about the band, you can tell like, yo, this band Kindo. And then when they're going to look it up, it's specified like it's the Reign of Kindo. But when you're initially saying it, every time I tell someone like, "Oh yeah, my band's called the Reign of Kindo," they're like, "What?" And that's just like the worst response if you're trying to get someone to remember
It's
your band name.
confusing, yeah.
It's very
It's
confusing. So
yeah.
all those reasons are kind of why we refer to it as Kindo, but technically in the marketplace, it's still the Reign of Kindo and in our hearts and souls.
That makes
Fair
sense
enough.
because I remember so on Spotify, like when I first started listening to you guys, it was the Reign of Kindo. And then for a time period, it switched and it was just Kindo. And then now, if you go on Spotify and look at it, it's the Reign of Kindo again. So I wasn't sure. And
We were just like, how can we make this confusing name more confusing?
And a lot of it had to do with just how fast the industry changed, how fast the marketplaces like developed and evolved. When we started doing this, our first stuff was like you could get it at Best Buy in a CD store, and that's times have changed. So all of that was like it was a stabbing in the dark, trying different things. Ultimately, we were tired of people saying "what" every time we explained our band name. Because
Which was our fault for naming our band that.
yeah, exactly. We were definitely masochists in that regard, but it is what it is now. We're sticking with it.
Very cool. All right, so back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate question, the Stallions question.
Mm.
So, and both you guys can answer this separately, but what is the most memorable, unique, like bizarre, strange, something that has stuck with you that you've seen at a concert, whether it be at one of your concerts or someone else's that you've gone to, and it could have happened to you, or you could have seen it happen to like someone else or someone on stage?
Well, I can just recently what pops into my head was playing a gig recently, and this wasn't with Kindo. This was with Remember Jones, but there was this dude. It must have been his birthday. And his name was Big Moose, and he was in the audience. This giant dude, and he's definitely drunk. And it was such a weird gig. He takes his shirt off. This is like at a beer garden we're playing at, and this dude takes his shirt off, and he just starts like dancing and flipping the whole crowd off. Just like he's at the front of the stage, and it's like turning around, smiling, and then I swear, like to each person in the band, he was like smiling and would point at me and then give me the middle finger with a big smile, and like just kept doing that.
I
And
want
I
to be
was just
friends
like,
with him.
what is going on? Like eventually security removed him, but like that's a recent memory of just like, wow, what
What is going on here? That's
what is
hilarious.
happening?
Was he having a good time, do you think?
Oh
Or
yeah.
was he like
I feel like it was his birthday and he went there with his friends, but then he got too drunk and his friends didn't want to deal with him and they left him and he's like, well, screw you guys, I'm gonna have a good time, and just started flipping everyone
Of course,
off.
he was having a good time, but his good time was becoming other people's problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's
which I
funny.
like, which I like to watch.
He succeeded. Yeah, it was. I just love like odd characters that you know. There's a weird place in my heart for like the borderline sociopath. Um,
What?
you know, not because I think, well, this guy was a borderline sociopath. He's flipping
Oh.
off everyone. He's like,
Oh, I see.
you know what I
I
mean?
got. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You're diagnosing him.
Yeah, I
Your
mean,
reaction was hilarious, Jeff.
that behavior was like so antisocial, and I find myself like drawn oddly to people who are like, whether it's by their own doing, whatever reason, like I'm just like, how did you become this way? Like I'm just so curious.
It's like,
And they
you
also have a way of seeking you out, and me as well. We have that same quality. Like they'll
I think
always.
because we're curious, like we don't repel them immediately. You know, we're not like,
No, but there's also like we're just like random people, and they're like you. It's like what? Because I don't know. They just probably know it would be. Oh, I would be like, this is weird. Where's this going? Keep going. All right. But yeah, I don't know. What's the worst that's gonna happen? This sociopathic guy flips you off and kills you.
we could have done it. I don't know. Who knows?
A weird thing that happened on like during a concert. Man, I don't.
yeah. Just like at it, or it doesn't have to be like weird. It could just be like something memorable that is
Yeah,
just like stuck in your
memorable.
head.
You'll never forget it.
We made Brazilian cable news because a fan proposed to his wife on stage. That was cool.
That was awesome. I was gonna bring that up. I'm glad you did.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
that was really special.
I went.
That was.
Did she
Further
say
back.
yes?
She did.
Would you?
You did say yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, the headline will be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Did we have like a? Did we? We were just probably assumed it'd be yes, but if she said no. Man, that guy gets to go on Steve's drum and have a drum solo or something. What would we do for him? I'll marry you.
I don't know. Yeah, that'd be that's a different. That would have maybe like killed the vibe at the show a little bit, but that's a tough recovery.
Yeah,
Admittedly.
I think it's just concerts are really cool and strange and like you're whether you're performing or not, just like man, there's like way less people that you're looking at. There's a lot of people looking at very little amount of people. There, a couple people are doing things that everyone is experiencing, and they think they're so important. Now I definitely feel more comfortable on stage. I know, like I don't know, I don't like being in the crowd. I hate crowds.
I feel that.
Unless they're giving away free milk, like they were at this Asagiri Fest when we played in Japan. Actually on Mount Fuji, literally on. They were giving
Damn.
away free milk because the farmers.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Very cool.
I like Japan.
What are some bands that you guys listen to like in your free time, like outside of Kindo?
Okay, I'm gonna open my Spotify. I'm just gonna look. What did I listen? I don't listen to a lot of music, but mainly I listen to a lot of podcasts. I just started listening today to Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. But I didn't get too far.
Oh, that's a classic album.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with it. What else? I listened
a
to Abbey
treat.
Road the other day. John Mayer. I love John Mayer.
Yeah. I was supposed to see him in February, but he got COVID the day before the show.
Oh man.
I did see him with Dead and Company though last month.
Oh, fun. That's fun. I would like to see that. I've been soaking in a lot of like R&B. As
Oh
of late.
yeah, BJ the Chicago Kid. You turned me on to that. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, I like him. Lucky Day, I like a lot. And then through Lucky Day, I discovered this artist Yeba, who John Mayer took on the road for a couple dates as well. She's a singer's singer. She's just like a phenomenal vocalist, but also a wonderful songwriter. Her music and arrangements. I mean, honestly, I think Kindo fans would love her because she touches a lot of those buttons. It's very.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've like listened to any of her stuff, but it's Yebba.
Okay, she's
yeah,
pretty.
Yeba, Lucky Day, Yeba kind of is multi-genre. She's like R&B, neo soul, but also like she does a really beautiful rendition of John Mayer's "Age of Worry." It's like one of the coolest. Like it's a cool version of the song. Check that out, Yeba's version of "Age of Worry."
Okay.
She does it live at Electric Ladyland Studios. She has a lot of cool like live videos. She's like a freak vocalist. She's really special. Yeah, that's kind of like that, and just listening to like a lot of classics. Stevie Wonder all the time.
Oh, he's
Lionel
awesome.
Richie,
Yeah.
Commodore's Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, with the coming of the boy, I've been like, all right, let's just bust out like the good stuff. So been raising.
Gotta start them early.
Yeah, no, totally. I was started early, and so, yeah.
Oh,
That's
Veruca Salt has been on my list lately. You guys ever get into Veruca Salt?
Yeah, that's like pure 90s. I love like that 90s grunge. I mean, I love
they're
everything.
They're fantastic. I was way into Veruca Salt back then, and recently it holds up. I love it. And Louise Post, she just released a solo album on Bandcamp that I bought for like $8 that I'm kind of listening to. There's just so much music. I can't listen to it all.
No, you can't, but you can appreciate it. And there's so much amazing music out there. So that's just some of it, see where it takes you.
And we're living in the best day and age to be able to find that hidden music that's out there. So
it's true.
I appreciate it.
And the young generation of music makers are crushing it. They're really bringing it. It's awesome. It's really cool to see.
Oh, and Michael Stein and Kyle Dixon, the two guys, the who write the Stranger Things score. I really like them a lot. They have a band called Survive.
Okay.
And the Duffer Brothers were fans of that. They asked them if they would try to do the music for this because they like their band. But I love what they do. There's something really special about it. And the Dead Sages is my favorite band. That's my new band.
Hell yeah. Well, awesome, guys. Again, the Reign of Kindo. Jeff, Joey, I appreciate you guys very much. We both do, for taking your time out of your week to come chat with us Stallions. You guys have been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate you guys inviting us, and it's been great. It's getting to spend this time with you.
Is there anything else that you guys want to plug or like mention before we sign out?
Just pay attention. There's some cool stuff coming down the pike. That's all.
Beautiful. And we'll be excited to see you guys live, and hopefully you're able to come over here in Ohio pretty soon. And because I know Klepp's itching for it, and he's given me that itch, and I'm ready to see you guys.
Oh, and Akron, do you know Hey Monet? Those are our friends. They're really great.
No, I'll check them out.
Check them out. I want to plug those guys. They're so good. They're just so they're so good. Two brothers.
Love it. I love new music. All right, well, we'll do a little bit of a sign out. Everyone will just say their names, but my name is Spruce.
I'm Jeff.
Joey.
I'm Klepp.
And this has been another episode of
of Vinyl Stallion.